I need to talk to you about something that's costing Toyota 4x4 owners thousands of dollars a year. Not bad luck, not defective parts, not even poor maintenance, modifications. Specifically, the mods that are plastered all over YouTube, pushed hard at off-road shops, and shown off at every trail meetup. The ones that look great in photos. The ones that feel like upgrades. The ones that are quietly tearing apart engines, transmissions, and drivetrains on trucks that should have lasted 400,000 miles. Here's what frustrates me. Most of the guys doing this aren't reckless. They love their trucks. They spend real money trying to make them better. But nobody told them the full story before they started bolting things on. So they mod first, and they find out what went wrong later, usually somewhere between $2,000 and $8,000 later. I've seen it in the shop more times than I can count. A beautiful 4Runner comes in lifted, locked and loaded, and the engine is burning oil, the transmission is slipping, or the drivetrain is making noises that shouldn't be coming from a truck that age. And every single time, we trace it back to a modification that was done without understanding what it actually does to the rest of the truck. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain. These are the most common off-road mods that are destroying Toyota engines and drivetrains, and what you need to know before you make the same mistakes. Let's get into it. Number 1. Oversized tires without a gear ratio change. This is the single most common mod mistake I see on Toyota 4x4s, and it causes more long-term drivetrain damage than almost anything else on this list. Here's the problem. Your Toyota 4Runner, Tacoma, or Tundra left the factory with a specific gear ratio in the differential, usually somewhere around 4.10 or 4.30. Calibrated specifically for the tire size that came on the truck. That gear ratio determines how hard the engine and transmission have to work to move the truck at any given speed. When you go from a factory 265/70 R17 to a 315/70 R17, a very common upgrade in the 4x4 community, you've just increased the diameter of the tire by several inches. The truck now has to move a significantly larger and heavier tire with every rotation, but the gear ratio hasn't changed. So the engine and transmission are suddenly working much harder than they were designed to. What does that actually look like over time? Your engine is working harder at highway speeds, running hotter, and burning more fuel. Your transmission is hunting for gears more often, generating more heat and wearing faster. Your differential gears are under load they weren't designed to handle. Your fuel economy drops noticeably. I've had customers come in with 35-inch tires on a 4Runner and wonder why their transmission fluid looks burnt at 40,000 miles. That's why. The fix is a re-gear, changing your differential gear ratio to match the new tire size. On a Tacoma going from stock tires to 33s or 35s, you're typically looking at re-gearing from 4.10 to 4.88 or even 5.29. It's not a cheap job, usually $800 to $1,500 per axle, but it restores your factory power delivery, protects your drivetrain, and honestly makes the truck feel like a different machine. If you've already put big tires on your rig and haven't re-geared, get it done. Your transmission will thank you. Number 2. Cheap lift kits that destroy your CV axles. Not all lift kits are created equal, and the price difference between a budget lift and a quality one isn't just about ride comfort. It's about what happens to your CV axles. Here's how it works. Your front CV axles are designed to operate within a specific range of angles. At stock ride height, those angles are well within the safe operating range. When you lift the truck, the axle angle increases. A quality lift kit, one built specifically for your Toyota, accounts for this by using extended upper control arms or corrected geometry components that keep the CV angles in a safe zone. A budget lift kit does none of that. It just pushes the suspension down without correcting the geometry. Now, your CV axles are running at steep angles every time you flex the suspension, and on the trail, where you're getting full articulation regularly, those axles are working at extreme angles constantly. The result? Accelerated CV joint wear, torn CV boots, premature axle failure. And the worst part, it doesn't always happen immediately. It can take 20,000 to 30,000 miles for the damage to fully show up, at which point most owners don't connect it to the lift kit they installed 2 years ago. A quality lift kit for a 4Runner or Tacoma costs more up front. You're looking at $1,000 to $3,000 for a reputable brand versus $200 to $400 for a budget option. But replacing front CV axles at $300 to $500 per side, potentially multiple times, plus the alignment costs every time something shifts, the cheap kit ends up costing far more. Buy the right kit once, do it correctly, protect the front axle. Number 3. Aftermarket air intakes that let dirt into your engine. Cold air intakes are one of the most popular engine modifications in the off-road community. They look aggressive, they make a great sound on hard acceleration, and every parts store promises you more horsepower and better fuel economy. Here's what they don't put on the box. Many aftermarket intake systems, especially the budget-oiled cotton gauze filter style, flow more air than the factory airbox, yes, but they also filter less. And on an oiled filter that hasn't been properly cleaned and re-oiled, the filtration can degrade to the point where fine dust particles are making it into your engine with every breath. For a daily driver on clean roads, the risk is manageable. For a 4x4 that spends time on dirt trails, in dusty canyons, through sand washes, or on muddy forest roads, this is a serious problem. Fine silica dust is one of the most abrasive substances your engine will ever encounter. It gets past the rings, into the cylinder walls, into the oil, and it acts like liquid sandpaper on every surface it touches. I've seen engines on modified 4Runners with 60,000 miles showing internal wear patterns that should not appear until 200,000 miles or more. Cold air intake, oiled filter, trails every other weekend. That was the whole story. Toyota's factory airbox is not glamorous, but it is highly engineered. The inlet location, the box design, the filter media, all of it is calibrated to give your engine adequate airflow while keeping the air clean. If you want to improve intake performance, a high-quality dry filter replacement, like an OEM upgrade filter, gives you better flow without compromising filtration. Keep the dirt out. Your engine cylinder walls depend on it. Number 4. Winch installs that overload your electrical system. A winch is one of the most useful recovery tools you can put on a Toyota 4x4. I'm not against winches. What I am against is the way most people install them. Here's the issue. A full-size recovery winch, the kind rated for 9,500 to 12,000 pounds, which is appropriate for a 4Runner or Tundra, draws an enormous amount of current under load. We're talking 400 to 500 amps at full pull. Your stock alternator on most Toyota 4x4s puts out 130 to 150 amps. Under a heavy winch load, your electrical system can't keep up. What happens? First, your battery voltage tanks. Second, if you're winching at low RPM, which is common when you're stuck, the alternator is barely spinning and contributing almost nothing. Third, if this happens repeatedly, you're deep cycling your starter battery, which kills it fast. And fourth, if the wiring isn't done correctly, you've got resistance in the circuit that generates heat, and heat in automotive wiring leads to fires. The mistakes I see most often: undersized wiring, no proper fusing at the battery, connections run through the factory fuse box instead of direct to battery, and no second battery or dual battery management system to handle recovery loads. Do a winch install correctly, and it's a fantastic tool. Do it wrong, and you're either stranded with a dead electrical system, or in a worse case, dealing with a cab fire on the trail. Get the wiring done right. Run proper gauge cable, typically 2.0 gauge for anything over 9,500 pounds rated pull. Fuse it at the battery. And if you're going to winch regularly, invest in a dual battery setup with an isolator so your recovery loads don't kill your starting battery. Number 5. Leveling kits that nobody told you come with consequences. Leveling kits are everywhere right now. And I get it. A truck that sits level front to rear looks better than one with a factory rake. It's a quick, inexpensive mod, and on the surface, it seems harmless. But here's what a lot of install shops won't tell you when you hand them $200. Toyota builds a factory rake, front sitting slightly lower than the rear, into their trucks intentionally. That rake accounts for load. When you add cargo, passengers, a hitch and trailer tongue weight, the rear compresses and the truck levels out naturally. The rake exists so the truck handles predictably under real-world load conditions. When you install a leveling kit, you're eliminating that rake at zero load. Put a heavy load on, and now the rear is sitting lower than the front. The handling geometry shifts. The headlights are now angled downward into the road. And the front suspension, particularly the upper control arm and ball joint geometry on IFS trucks like the Tacoma and 4Runner, is operating outside the range it was designed for, especially on the trail. On strut-based leveling kits, if the spacer is too aggressive, the front struts are compressed beyond their designed range of travel. That causes the strut to bottom out more easily on bumps, which beats up the strut mounts and transfers shock directly into the chassis. I've seen Tacoma strut towers start showing stress cracking from exactly this. If you want a leveled look, do it with an actual quality lift kit that corrects the geometry rather than just stacking a spacer on top of the strut. It's more expensive up front, but it's not quietly damaging your front suspension every time you hit a pothole. Number 6. Tuning and ECU flashes that chase horsepower at the cost of engine life. This one is becoming more common as the tuning community grows around Tacoma and Tundra platforms, and it worries me every time I see it done without a full understanding of the consequences. Aftermarket ECU tunes on Toyota 4x4s typically adjust fuel mapping, ignition timing, and boost pressure on turbocharged models. The gains can be real, 20 to 40 horsepower on a naturally aspirated engine, more on a forced induction setup. On paper, that sounds like a straightforward win. Here's the problem. Toyota's factory tune is not conservative because Toyota's engineers were being lazy. It's conservative because it's calibrated to work reliably across a wide range of conditions: altitude, temperature, fuel quality, engine wear, for the full service life of the engine. The factory tune has a safety margin built in. When you flash an aggressive tune, that margin shrinks or disappears. The engine is now running closer to its limits all the time. On a trail in high summer heat, at altitude, running regular fuel because that's what the station had, the safety margin your engine needed just ran out. Detonation, knock, piston damage. I've also seen aggressive tunes push combustion chamber temperatures high enough to accelerate valve seat wear on Toyota's aluminum heads. That's a cylinder head job. And on a Tacoma or 4Runner, that's $2,000 to $4,000. If you want more performance out of your Toyota 4x4, improve airflow and exhaust flow, quality headers, a proper catback exhaust, a clean intake path. These give you real-world gains without removing the safety margins your engine relies on to live a long life. Number 7. Roof racks and rooftop tents. Nobody calculated the weight for. Rooftop tents took over the overlanding world fast, and I understand why. They're convenient, they look incredible, and they keep you off the ground on the trail. I'm not anti-rooftop tent, but here's what most people don't think about when they bolt 150 pounds of tent plus a heavy steel rack to the roof of their 4Runner or Tacoma. Physics. Specifically, the physics of what a high center of gravity does to a vehicle's handling and what sustained roof load does to body and frame stress over time. Toyota's roof load ratings for dynamic load meaning the vehicle in motion, are typically 165 pounds for the 4Runner and 140 pounds for the Tacoma. That's the rack, the tent, and everything in it combined while driving. A rooftop tent alone can weigh 130 to 180 pounds. Add a steel rack at 60 to 80 pounds, and you're already over the dynamic limit before you've packed a sleeping bag. What happens over time? The roof sheet metal begins to stress and flex. Mounting points on body-on-frame trucks can work loose. But more immediately, that top-heavy load raises your center of gravity significantly. And on a trail with any lateral lean, you are now in a vehicle that handles very differently from how it was engineered. There's also the highway fatigue to consider. Miles of highway driving with 200 pounds on the roof, vibrating and flexing, will find every weak point in your rack mounting hardware. Check your mounting torque regularly. Stay within rated limits. And if you want a heavy overland setup, look into a bed rack system that keeps the weight low and within the bed. Your truck's geometry will thank you. One more thing before you go: mod shopping. Look, I'm not here to tell you not to build your truck. A well-built Toyota 4x4 is one of the most capable machines on the planet, and the right mods done the right way genuinely transform what these trucks can do. But every modification has consequences somewhere in the system. The guys who build reliable, high-mileage rigs aren't the ones who mod the most. They're the ones who mod smart. They research. They do things in the right order. And they understand that protecting the engine and drivetrain is always the priority. If you want the complete blueprint for building and maintaining a Toyota 4x4 that performs hard and lasts long, the 500,000-mile car maintenance blueprint in the description is where to start. It covers every critical service interval and maintenance decision, including how to keep a modified rig running reliably for the long haul. It's the guide I recommend to every serious Toyota 4x4 owner who doesn't want to be learning these lessons the expensive way. If you found these tips helpful, be sure to watch this next video, as we're sharing insider tips to help you cut repair costs and keep your car running like new.